That's good, teacher. Where you sitting?
I don't know. I'm getting a good ticket.
So what's up, baby?
I mean, I was in the upper level for the Indian game.
It was a good first quarter.
Yeah, they fell apart.
Great first quarter.
Thank you, Frank. Good evening, board trustees and administration.
Good evening, Doc.
And our guests. Welcome to our board governance meeting on today, which is Monday, November the 11th, Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to all of those that it applies. We're going to go ahead and get our meeting started. The time is now 6:01 p.m. and we will call this meeting to order. If we can have roll call, please.
VP Bowman,
Present.
Trustee Kraft,
Here.
Trustee Garrett,
Present.
Trustee Gross,
Present.
President Hannah,
Present.
and Treasurer Terry.
Present.
Madam President-elect.
Thank you. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can I get a motion for the approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Trustee Gross and supported by VP Bowman for the approval of the agenda. Any questions? Roll call.
Trustee Kraft,
Yeah.
Trustee Garrett,
Yes.
Trustee Gross,
Yes.
President Hannah,
Yes.
Treasurer Terry,
Yes.
VP Bowman.
Yes.
That passes 6-0.
Thank you. All right, recognition of elected officials. Good evening again. Trustees, good to see you tonight.
See you, Doc.
Do we have any communications, petitions, and delegations?
There are none.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on down to board presentations under old business. Oakland County Parks, our Hawthorne property. I know we have had discussions in the past about the Hawthorne Park, the property in which we own. And we had received some offers from entities that were interested in purchasing. Well, on last week, we had a conversation with Oakland County themselves. And they shared with us what their intent was for the property, what their partnership looks like with the city. And then they also shared with us how the portion of the land which we own could be best utilized. And so they gave us a full presentation. And one of the things that came out of that meeting was that they are not looking or expecting us to sell them the property. But what they did suggest is possibly us partnering with them. Whereas, just as they're doing with the city, with Hawthorne Park, they would want to partner with us for our space. And I'm going through this presentation here so I can tell you what they have suggested or would like to propose to the school district as we partner together to utilize that space, that land that we have. And so what they are wanting to propose is that the Pontiac School District retains ownership of the property. Pontiac School District and Oakland County Parks, they enter into a interlocal agreement for the operation and management of the site. The term would be for 20 years with auto renewal unless either party objects. And this can be canceled for cause or without cause with provisions. The naming of the park, we could decide on that. It says part of the Pontiac Oaks County Park. It can be branded as a partnership between Pontiac School District and Oakland County Parks. So we could determine what the naming of it would be. In terms of cost and responsibility, they would ask that the school district agree to allow Oakland County Parks to manage the site at no cost, that the Oakland County Parks is responsible for capital, operating, and maintenance expenses for this property, and that Oakland County Parks would conduct environmental assessment during doing due diligence, jointly discuss remediation plans if needed. And what the collaboration would be is that Oakland County Parks would submit a development and capital improvement plan to the school district for review, and that Oakland County Parks would welcome collaboration efforts to offer special events and programs at the site. Should we, if we were wanted to move forward with this agreement, and should at some point the school district choose to cancel, no longer want to be in partnership with Oakland County, then the agreement, or it says, should Pontiac School District choose to cancel without cause during the life of the agreement or opt not to renew, they will reimburse Oakland County Parks for the depreciated value of the fixed assets. So they provided us with a layout of the park, but they also gave us an idea, showed us pictures as to what and how they would develop that space. And the space that they have, it would include something like an experimental learning space, a splash pad, nature play area, a urban beach destination like with a sandbox, community gathering space, water playground, environmental field station, community science, land management. These were just suggestions or examples of things that could be utilized on that space, but it will be up to us in partnership with Oakland County to determine what specifically we would like to put on that place. Of course, this is again the portion, our property that we own, which is, they would develop this just as they're developing Hawthorne Park in their partnership with the city. So, and we have naming rights? And we have naming rights. So I want to just allow Dr. Leverett, who was in attendance at the meeting, VP Bowman, who was also in attendance at the meeting, if there's anything that I missed or anything you want to add as it relates to that conversation for board trustees.
No, I would think you covered everything. I would just add that Trustee Bowman, Dr. Devison, and I got a chance to visit the Bowman Theater and Bowers Farm, and I think we updated you guys on that, as well as the nature preserve, and it was a great visual for me to see what the potential future of this partnership for our school district could look like.
Did you have anything, Bowman?
I just want us to know that the sooner we can get, if we all can agree to allow, if we're open with this, to let Oakland County do this, this would be probably one of the best things that this board can put our name on, to stake in the ground to say that this is a thing that we did, because whatever Oakland County develops where we give our input, because the sooner they can allocate dollars, the sooner we decide to, this will be a good look. It manages our land. We can have so many opportunities to have a building, different structure. So it's a win-win for the community, and it's a win-win for the 7 of us before this board no longer exists. So I would just hope that we can, I'm not going to say push it along, but really put some thought and teeth in this, so that this board before it is no more, we have something to say that this is what the Board of Education in 2024 did for the city, for the district, and for the community. So, and we have naming rights, so we can name stuff. Okay, good.
Yes. Trustee Gross.
Yeah, no, I like this idea, because then we're not selling away what we have. And that'll stop all these bidders, buyers, and wannabes. That's number one. So one of the things we talked about in our policy committee, and I like that this is brought up. One of the concerns that we have in our district now is dealing with the student environment that are having difficulties with discipline. And we've always talked about what can we do alternatively with a program that can have those kids who are having difficulty, consistent difficulty, behaviorally and acting out in school. This would give us an opportunity, if we can, and I don't know what the process will be, to even actually look at placing something on that land as well through the help of Oakland County, where we won't call it alternative, but we came up with, like, Pontiac University. and giving these kids the ability to, they would have to go to something like this, has a positive name,
Yes.
just like we separated with those, what we consider higher learning students with ITA, we can call it something positive, like, for example, Pontiac University, to where our kids who are having these difficulties and preventing kids from dropping out of school, place them in this type of environment within that area, and then to be able to have the ability to work themselves back into the high school. But that too, with Oakland County helping us with paying, we can also implement something like that, even if we did. And then the Bowers situation can also affect those kids who are suffering from some disabilities, mental health disabilities, to give them learning, removing that environment out of high school, which is strictly now be conducive for learning, right? And again, you're not tagging anybody, but you're just this thing always speaking, doing something outside of the box. We talked about that, and that's why you have this here. That's why this is here, right? And so that's something I think we can look at in this partnership with them, implementing something if they're looking at providing, building, some sort of building, and we can call it that name, to definitely deal with that type of environment. So I think this is good, and it's something, because right now, the land's just sitting there. That's just my opinion.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Trustee Kraft.
Yeah, one of my main concerns when it was up, when people were bidding for the land or either inquiring about the land, was that I really didn't want to sell it. And that was my main thing. And if we can find, because I look at it as when you're selling it off to people, it's decreasing the size of our city, especially if you sold it to Oakland County or however. But as long as we retain that land, and that's land that we can use. It's always going to be valuable for us. And the splash pad idea, I think it's a great idea. I take my little ones down to Normandy Oaks, which is a branding part of that Oakland County park system. And they go to the splash pad, and they have a dynamic playground, and it's awesome. But I have to go to Royal Oak. This is actually a lot closer. And our kids, and our kids in our neighborhoods and stuff will be able to utilize this park. And I believe anything to benefit our children, I'm all in for it, especially if it's not including selling the land or, but we just have to do our due diligence and make sure that that we dot all our I's and cross all our T's and stuff on this and make sure that, for the citizens. But, if it's like this, yeah, I'm all for it.
Okay.
And trustees, what's exciting too is Pontiac is at the table. It's not just, okay, this is what we're going to do, but our insight is going to be invaluable. And just in terms of the naming, Trustee Bowman already came up with, Phoenix Oaks, or whatever we decide. Maybe we get the community and the children involved in the naming. And the other thing, Trustee Gross, to your point, when we were at Bowers Farm, they actually, on that farm, there is an alternative classroom placed there.
Exactly.
And the level of engagement that those students were in there experiencing was quite incredible. It was actually a classroom on site, so a certain percentage of their time was actually a tremendous amount of learning taking place when you have students on the farm, and then they actually had computers and programs and teaching staff there with the kids, so they had a full-on staff for that particular group of kids that shared some testimonials with us that were very, very positive in terms of what they were learning and receiving.
During my tenure with Michigan Works, and when I was mentoring kids, and a lot of them was our students from here, the kids were employed, and Bowers would employ them, but they would assist with helping those children having those difficulties. And so that was important. And then these are things that we can look at, putting our students in the position to be able to help those who are having difficulty, creating something like that. We just thought outside of the box. So those kids actually got paid, but they work with kids outside of the district where they went to school. So it was important. That's why I said that, because I knew Bowers had that, because those type of kids' ability to learn was better when it was more hands-on, doing different things than it was sitting in the classroom. So that's why that was important, and I'm glad you saw that. So that's why I mentioned it. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doc.
Good. Any other comments? Yes. Trustee Treasurer Terry, yes, you do.
First, I guess I would love to see the documentation that you have as well, just to get up to date and up to speed on those potential ideas. The other thing that came to mind was from a, I guess, tax perspective, they're going to be responsible for all of that. I guess I want to know what are the district going to be liable for, or what is our take in this? That's what I want to know. Are we still responsible for the property taxes and?
Well, we don't pay property taxes.
We don't do the taxes over there?
We don't pay taxes at all.
Okay, so we're good with that then. So it won't be no impact. So,
And I'm sure we can arrange to make sure that any insurance that needs to be on the property will
that was my next question.
by the Oakland County as part of the whole.
Okay, for liability reasons and stuff like that. Okay. And then where did the 30-year come from?
20.
20-year. Where did the 20-year come from?
I think that's pretty much.
They just gave us 20 years. They just mentioned 20
It's
years.
gonna take time and research, because they have to do the,
Well, it won't take 20 years to develop.
Right.
That was just saying that our agreement would be for
right.
20
but I'm saying
years.
the First few is gonna be doing some research.
Correct. Okay. It shouldn't take them too long because it's school property.
And that was part of the reason why they said they would like to know where we stood with this, so if we could move sooner than later because of the money.
That was my
Because
next
of the
question.
funding is there now, and they're using part of the, I believe, the ARPA dollars
Yeah.
for this project. So they want to go ahead and at least show where the money is going to, that this is what it's intended for. Yeah.
And how soon is that? Like this month or?
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
As soon as possible.
So you have created a document or something that we have to approve?
So today I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention, put
Right.
it out there, and so we can easily ask them to come and share.
That's fine.
We can do a presentation, and then we can put it on the agenda for voting.
Okay. And
That's a good idea.
since we're kind of on this topic with property, maybe to be creative and maybe think outside the box, if there's other opportunities that we can do with some of the other buildings, lease them out, rent them out. But just thought moving forward. So I think we got a couple of them that's kind of vacant, and I know I've seen some reports, Seeker sends out as well too, but
Okay.
just some thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Kraft.
One question, I believe at one point, the city was interested in purchasing the land, right? At one, now,
This
do they
Hawthorne
have,
Park?
right, do they have any, interactions and stuff with this? Are they?
Not with not with the land that we own.
Okay, no, I mean, are they trying to be a part of this? Because you know, the other part is what, Hawthorne
Yes.
Oaks, okay? And that's what they wanted to actually
Yeah.
use part of that to expand over there.
So, yeah, so the city owns Hawthorne Park, so that's the park that they are partnering with the county on to redevelop that. And so what they were wanting to do, I guess, was to buy our portion of it so that could go along with the development of the park as a whole. But instead of us selling it to the city, we'll just get in partnership with the county, just like they're getting into
Okay.
partnership with the county. So we'll do our own partnership. We're not gonna sell it to you to use for that. If we're in agreement, that's how it would work. So we ourselves would partner with the county.
And I think we should do what Matilda Dodge did up at Oakland University, put that in writing. And make sure that it cannot undo it.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, we will definitely, but if, I do have a printout, I did print out their presentation, and so I will pass it around so you can see it, but I'm okay with, if you all are okay, we'll invite them to one of our meetings, and that way if there's any additional questions that we might have, before we put it to a vote as to how we want to move forward. Yep, VP Bowman.
Also, another location that if we decide outside of hours to take a peek at to get building ideas, the Northwest Activity Center in Detroit, that's another building to
Very
take.
familiar with that. Been there, done that, hooped over there a lot.
Yeah, so that's
Long time.
another building that we could take a
That's
peek
correct.
at to consider type of building styles
Yes.
over there. Because if Oakland County gonna pay for it, let's throw it all out there and see what we can get. Great space.
Yes, we used to play, it's a nice activity center.
All right, we good?
At the Boys Club, this is good. I
All
like
right.
this idea. This is good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving down to new business, safety boxes. Detective James.
Sergeant.
Yes, and as Detective James Sargent comes, he had talked to me, I believe earlier this year, or it may have been the later part of last school year, about the storage safes. And so his presentation is going to cover that. I believe the cost to the district will be about $3,866 or somewhere around there, to ensure that in the event that they needed to access their firearms as opposed to going to their vehicles, that it would be something that would be on site for 3 of those, and he'll share the locations. But it's safety that I certainly have heard from him and the need. And so with that, we'll just turn it over to the sergeant, and he will share his presentation. Sergeant James.
Before Sergeant James start, one quick question as it pertains to, this is my question to you and to you. As it pertains to the exact location, if agreed upon where these would be, should we do that over TV?
We don't have to. It doesn't matter. I will say that.
You know what I'm saying?
Where
Because if
they
you say,
are,
well,
there's-
the safety is
yeah.
going to be over at the high school and in section
Yeah.
A3. Kids are like,
Yeah.
oh man, we got shotguns in A3 over. No, get where I'm going.
Yeah, I get what you
How important that is.
So
to
we
say
can-
that,
we can
'cause there's some
definitely-
people out there listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
we
what I'm
de-
asking.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we
thank
can
you,
leave that out.
All right, appreciate it.
So good evening. Thanks for having me. I have the fortunate pleasure of presenting this to you today. Unfortunately, it's a difficult conversation that we have to have. We live in this world today, and we have to have these conversations around safety, how we respond to it, and how we better prepare ourselves going forward as we see what happens across the country. So I just wanted to recap the role of the SROs in the schools. So we're often the first law enforcement officers on scene, and we engage directly with whatever threat is presenting at the school. That is our main reason, is to help safeguard lives and the district's property. And so our proximity to the school allows us to respond faster than normal law enforcement. We are not on the road patrol taking normal routine calls. We are Pontiac School District 100% of the time. So our time solely is dedicated to the district. So what we know about active shooter incidents across the country, the FBI has told us that most school shootings, 70% of them to be exact, conclude within 5 minutes. The assailant's goal is to hurt as many people in the shortest amount of time, because they know that once that call comes in, response is really quick. And we know that 90% conclude in 10 minutes. So that's a critical importance. That's what that tells us, is that our rapid response is crucial. So during this, I just wanted to give you an idea of what we've been starting to train the district on as we move into the standard response protocol with the staff and students. So when this happens, they go into what's called a lockdown. That means locks, lights, and they're out of sight. So the students, their responsibility is to move away from the site, maintain silence, do not open the door. Adults, we want them locking the door. turning off their classroom lights. If they can, gather those last few kids, if there's some kids in the hallway, maintain silence in the building, and prepare to defend or evade an attacker should they come into the building or into the classroom. What we know, and while we are ingraining those 3 phrases there, locks, lights, and out of sight, into our family's head, is that there has been no shooter, and this was done during the Sandy Hook report, no shooter that has gained entry through a locked door. What we know is that usually when they get that resistance, because like I said, they're trying to cause as much harm as they can in a short period of time, they move on. They're looking for the people that are complacent. They're looking for the easy targets. And what we're trying to train is we're not going to be easy targets should this come to our district. Yes, ma'am.
So, if there's a shooter, is there a certain, like siren or code, or how do we put this out to let them know, alert, did they get a text via phone, or?
Yeah.
Should I not?
So put it out to the parents or to the community.
Within the-
So when a lockdown's called, you'll start seeing actually this symbol here across the school buildings as we hang up our SRP posters. So back over the summer, we went to a safety conference down in Florida, which we brought back a lot of great ideas. And one of them was the standard response protocol, which is used in over 20,000 schools across the country. And there's more to this. So they have several different modes. One of the first ones is a hold. That's going to be used in the event that, we don't need students moving around the building. Maybe we have a medical in the hallway, so we would use that hold. What we're training our administrators on now is to get their staff used to this language. So some of that language is hold. Secure, that means that there's a threat outside of the building. Usually a secure is going to be used if there's an active law enforcement or safety incident that's in the proximity of the school building. So we go on to a secure mode. That means no one in or no one out. The other one is going to be shelter. That's going to be used mainly in our weather-related incidents like a tornado. And then we have evacuate. So that's your gas leak. That's an emergency in the building, which will make it unsafe for people to stay within the school building. So we have gotten that rolled out to all of the administrators, and we're actually going building the building, conducting training with the staff. And then at the high school and middle school level, the training on this for the students is coming in the coming weeks. So we're just trying to get everyone up to speed so that way they start knowing this language. And right now with our drills, this specific language that you see here on the board, that's what our principals are going to be using as they conduct their drills throughout their buildings. So currently, if we were to have an active assailant incident in one of our buildings, more than likely the SROs would rapidly respond to their vehicle to get their patrol rifle and other tactical equipment. Most of the time, active assailants, they're going to be using some type of high-powered weapon. That's just what we see from the statistics across the country. So what this does, the SROs responding to their vehicle to get their equipment, what this does is that delays that response time that we want to be rapid. I will tell you that the 3 of us you have here probably wouldn't even think twice to respond into the car. We're just going to use what we have, which, may not be ideal. Our long guns that we keep in the car are more for long range. So if we have to, unfortunately, and our job then is to neutralize a threat. If we have to put a rifle down range, it's a lot easier to hit a target with a rifle with a scope than it is with a handgun with iron sights. So just looking at how can we improve that response time, because a minute is a very long time and a lot of lives that could be lost. So what schools across the country and a lot of schools in Oakland County are moving to is the Voltec RS-200i, which is a rifle safe that is specifically been vetted for schools. It has biometric entry, which is a fingerprint scanner. It has a code that also goes along with it, backup keys. It is tamper resistant. Our Oakland Schools IT guys are very familiar with this equipment as it connects to the network, and anytime that safe is touched, we get a notification. Anytime someone tries to access it, there's a notification sent in, and they have helped, at talking with them, they have helped other school districts across the county install these, yes.
Are all of the SROs going to have access to
No, just,
Our SROs here in Pontiac, yes.
you just have 3.
the? Okay. No, that's what I'm saying, not
Yeah.
the
Not the P-
actual police, not the.
Not the PAOs.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
chief don't get the access to that either.
So the people who will have access to that would be, of course, myself, Detective Wheeler, Detective Garcia, and also if there's any responding law enforcement who, let's say we didn't have that time to get to that, we're already dealing with something, they could come in and they would have specific codes, but it logs in who's accessing it and whatever. But usually the ones that are responding, they're already coming with their own stuff. And we got to see how this plays out, unfortunately, in Oxford, where they did have these.
Can I ask a question? Are these universal in terms of access? Like if something was happening on a large scale, any police officer could come in and based on its fingerprint, go into the vault?
As long as they're programmed to do so.
Okay.
Yep, as long as they have access. So the only people that would have access for our sake would be the 3 SROs that, would have access to that. There could be a point in time where we add maybe like another patrol sergeant who would be, if they respond, they would assist me in commanding the incident. Or, other people who are maybe routinely be in the schools, but for all intents and purposes, it would just be the SROs that are here.
And that would be for any designated SRO that's here. So you retire, the other ones retire. The
Yeah.
new incoming would be.
Yeah, even though I can't retire for like 60
I know, I'm
years,
just
yeah.
saying,
60
So-
years.
You might win the Mega Millions.
Yeah, but no, what would happen is, life does happen. If let's say I'll give Detective Wheeler, if he was to get promoted tomorrow or go to another unit tomorrow, his biometric profile will be removed, and whoever takes his
That's what it
place
is. Okay.
would get that profile. Yeah. And just how other districts are doing it, the rifle is only in the safe the hours that the deputy are in the building. So it's never in the building without the deputies being there or anything like that. So some of the features for it that, like I said, it is Wi-Fi connected. We get notifications on if there's any tampering or anything like that. The biometric fingerprint's huge because really no one's getting in it unless it's you. And then they are bolted to the floor or wall, so there's no tampering with it that way.
Sergeant James?
Yes.
Quick question.
Uh-huh.
So you just mentioned that the firearms are only there when you all are in the building. So does this mean that every night when you all leave, you take them with you
Yeah.
and you bring them? So if you weren't there tomorrow, but Wheeler and someone else was there, so they would only have
Theirs.
there too?
Yeah. So yes, so each one of us that we're issued our own equipment, so we would come with our own equipment. So if I'm not there, more than likely I'm not leaving mine inside of that locker. Even though we have taken a lot of steps with our office locations and stuff like that, we have specialized keys to where even like some of the schools' master keys do not work on our offices to gain entry, just because we have to be compliant with some of the state regulations as far as like criminal justice information, especially dealing with juveniles. And like our cases that we have requires us to have like 900 different, locks. We have to have an office lock, then we have to have a file cabinet lock where we lock files up. So we already have that in place, but yeah, it would only be our equipment. Yeah. So these are some of the current schools that are in our immediate area that have it. already. There's a lot more. I believe Lake Orion schools just decided to purchase them for their SROs in their schools. And then I know Avondale was looking into it, but I don't know where they are now. So as I talked about before, some of the current safeguards already in place. So we have a specialized key for our areas within the buildings, and our office doors are always locked. If we leave our office or any area that we occupy, we have to leave it locked. We can't leave an open door, anything like that, and that's just to stay compliant with some of the juvenile justice laws and state laws as it relates to criminal justice information. So the investment, these would become school district property. So each safe runs just shy of $1,300, and to purchase 3, it would be just shy of $3,900. And so, and I put this blurb at the bottom is because I know sometimes we like to look for different options and what we have. So this is currently what the Office of School Safety and some of the other partners are saying this is the best thing for schools. So there's not really a list of vendors that we could go out to get some type of bid or proposal. With safety equipment, there's very few things where we can actually bid out to see what our options are, because we want the best option that's out there. And then any questions? Oh no, I got one more slide I forgot about. So the investment outcomes on this is, of course, response time reduction and then casualty reduction. Sometimes, that response time and casualty reduction goes hand in hand. The quicker we can respond to any incident, any tragedy, the faster that we can isolate that incident, get it under control, and get everyone, where they need to be safely. So, and yeah, I believe that's my last slide, but I thought that last time. So, yeah, questions?
All right, thank you. Trustee Kraft?
I'm trying to understand something a little bit. That's a great idea, but what about the other schools?
So, right now, with what we have is, and I can speak for other districts how they have it. Some districts have went all out and they have purchased one for every building. Because let's say, for instance, I'm at the high school today, but tomorrow I know I'm spending my day at ITA. So some districts have where they have one at ITA, so I can have my stuff there while I'm at ITA. It's definitely an option. I just, was starting off slow and then ease into a.
Because active shooters don't discriminate with age kids. So they go to elementaries, they go to high schools and stuff, and while we're concentrating one way, make sure there ain't nobody hitting us in the back of the head the other. You see?
Yeah, right.
How many buildings do we have? 6.
So my recommendation right here before everybody is to make sure all the schools are safe first. If we can go right here with this, and this doesn't seem to be very expensive for our school district. I believe that all of our kids, all of our schools should be equipped with this just in case.
What buildings were you talking about?
So right now you would have one with the 3. You would have one at PHS, the middle school, and then one will go in ITA. And the reason I was deciding to put the 3rd one over at ITA, we still have to identify a space, but it's because most of my time is spent at the middle school because we're creating some programs and kind of shifting some culture there, and there would be no sense of having 2 of them there when these safes hold up to 3 rifles. So mine could always go in the same one as Detective Wheeler, and then if we're over at ITA, it could be placed there. But if it's in every building, we would just have to identify a space where that could be secure.
I like that idea. Every building.
Any other questions? You done?
Yes, I'm done. I just had to bring
Okay.
that point.
VP Bowman?
Thank you, Chairman.
So if we did want to put one if we did decide to do one for all buildings, it's just a matter of you ordering more, or is it something different that needs to happen?
It's just a matter of changing the cart quantity. I will say that schools are giving this company good business. They are out of stock right now, so we would have to go on a wait list to get them. So, which I heard is very, very short, but it would just be a click of a button, pretty much.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Crap. Did you have something?
Just
No.
one
Okay.
note. With that, if we happen to purchase more and everything, could it be, the price should go down a little bit more also, we can negotiate that if that's the case.
And I can get in touch with a vendor versus, just using their online portal to see if that's something that they will do for
Buy them in bulk.
schools, since a volume price.
Oh, all schools. Does it include installation?
So installation, I'll have to check in on that, but I know by talking to some of the other SROs across the county, the district's facilities.
Okay.
Because it's just, I
good
believe
to
it's
know.
3 bolts, so they would drill into either whether it be the floor or into the wall, and then they would anchor it into there.
Okay, thank you.
Treasurer Terry, did you have a comment?
That was one of my questions. I guess the other thing, we need to maybe consider which budget is gonna come out of.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments?
I love it, all schools.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Leverett. Vaping program, I know Denise isn't here.
Oh,
Moving on. I'm just kidding, Doc.
But did you want to share anything about that?
yes, I don't have the information right before me, but I will say that Denise had a conversation with myself and Dr. Hannah around is really a comprehensive program that is curriculum that would be right at our fingertips, just in terms of prevention, awareness, and education around vaping for our students that she wanted to bring to the district. The resources that I had a chance to take a look at were, I think could certainly benefit our students in a variety of ways, again, as it relates to just education and prevention, and each one, teach one and carry that conversation forward to their other peers, as well as their families. And I apologize, I don't have the curriculum right in front of me with the information that she presented. But again, a great opportunity to just continue to drive home with our students under, safe schools, and our student health and longevity, the importance of this. So,
I think we can maybe reach out to her another time, but
okay.
if I could just add to it, I know we were talking about, basically, we know students are vaping.
Yes.
But how do we handle it? What is the disciplinary that we provide to students when
And
they're
we've
caught doing
implemented
it?
some things such as vaping units to be able to detect kids are vaping in the bathrooms and things like that.
Yes, but this program, it kind of, it goes through like if you're caught the first time, this is what happens. If you're caught the second time, this is what happens. Third time, etc. And so it's free. It's a program that, and I forgot the institution that Denise works for, because they are the ones that would implement it. So they would come in and give an overview as to what this is, what happens should, you get caught vaping, and then how that progresses each time. So I don't have it either. I forgot to.
I could
what
go
she
grab
had,
it
but
if you
was
guys
really,
need
it
me
was
to.
really good, and it was something
It
that we
was.
need because we had talked about. We know we see these students that get
Yes.
caught vaping. They come across. So this program is a preventative measure that we would put in place to help educate students on what it does to their bodies and how it impacts them. But then, like we said, it also shows them, or it can always also be used as kind of a discipline as to what happens the first time you're caught vaping, what happens the second time, and so forth. So
And maybe-
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go. My question would be, when she brings that presentation, could she have some sort of statistics showing where we are, as what our kids, how many kids have been using, or how many kids have been disciplined for it, and where we are? Because I'm seeing a lot of that during my travels out on what I do outside of here, and a lot of kids are missing school or suspended from school due to vaping in a lot of districts outside of Pontiac. And so I'm finding that to become more of a bigger issue. And not only the vaping itself, it's what they're vaping.
yeah.
Because a lot of kids aren't just vaping marijuana.
Right.
It's other specific things, flavored tobaccos and things like that, and flavored stuff, whatever they're doing.
Embalming fluids or
Yeah, so
something. Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Let's get that
So
in
that is
there.
exactly what her
Absolutely.
program talks about.
Absolutely.
And
I
we
love it.
thought, I see you too, correct. And this kind of aligns because I know the city, we have been talking about doing an ordinance with the city on vaping. And so they
Yep.
would like to invite us over to City Hall tomorrow to talk about the agreement, the ordinance that will be put in place that
Time.
the city will support. 6 o'clock, I think.
For the
is
council
their
meeting?
Yes. So they've invited us over for that portion of the meeting for the vaping part. But
Okay.
Trustee Kraft.
Okay, another thing that's lost up in here, I mean, we're talking about the kids with vaping. The thing is, we need to create some type of policies and stuff while we setting those measures in place, to have the parents' accountability and somehow be accountable for some of this, because first of all, the kids can't afford that. They can't buy vapes. They can't go in there legally and buy anything, in which they get it sometimes in certain ways, but on the most part, it's provided inside of the house. And it leaves there, and it brings that problem right to our schools and stuff. So the thing is that the parents have to have some type of accountability along with the child. Now, that's what I believe that comes out of this also.
Yeah, and that is part of it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Heck, they're taking their parents' vapes and bringing them in.
It could potentially, as I was thinking about it, Trustee Gross, and I know that we haven't provided an update on the portion where we have our kids' court coming soon. So the vaping and the education could be potentially something
I like that.
outside of, in terms of progressive discipline, that you have to go to kids' court and have this conversation with
I
your
like
peers,
that.
et cetera. So I see those two meeting quite nicely.
Yep, agreed.
In the program I ran, we used to call it group. So you have to confront your own peers. Call group. As soon as there's a problem, group. Thank you.
Okay. You had something to say, Sergeant Jay?
I can just add to some of the measures that we are taking towards
Sure, yep.
Because I think we have something in place for vaping as far as policy-wise.
So as it relates to vaping, what we've identified over this past summer, we've identified some of our retail stores in the city that are supplying kids with vapes without an ID. So we will be taking some type of enforcement action against them. We are just trying to figure out, because usually what that is, and it's no secret, they're stings. It's like, back in the day where you used to send kids in to buy alcohol or cigarettes, and you would pay them if they come out with it, and then we go cite the store and we send their stuff off to the licensing agency, the state, to come down on them as well. So that's one step that we're going to be taking into addressing our retailers in the city of Pontiac that are supplying the kids with vapes. And then we're getting ready to roll out teen court. Which at the middle school and high school level, they can be referred to teen court, which our great Judge Bowie has volunteered to be the judge over teen court.
Good.
And what this is a great program that allows our students to be the prosecuting attorney, the defense attorney, the bailiff, the jury, and they really can be involved in kind of that restorative practice and everything. But the kids who come to our teen court at 50th District will be kids from other districts. Our students who get referred to teen court will be referred out to other municipalities and to do their teen court. So it's kind of like an exchange. So we're positive that that's going to have some great results in reducing recidivism. So.
Good.
Love it.
Yep, we love it.
Yep, I know, I do.
Thank you. All right, so that's what we got on vaping. Any other questions or comments? Good? All right, thank you. All right, now we're moving on down to our consultant updates. Dr. Weatherspoon?
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, members of the board.
Good evening.
Tonight, I'm going to break it down into 3 simple questions. What can you afford? What do you want? And how are you going about identifying what you have? So, what's been happening is that Dr. Leverett and her team have been devoting about an hour plus to cabinet meetings to discussing these problems and questions, I should say. And I'll give an example of some of the questions that are on the table. We know, for example, that in terms of your buildings, you're operating at 50%. So I think in the words of our, one of these cabinet members, we have capacity for 10,000 kids, we have between 4,000 and 5,000. So your costs for those buildings are going to go up. Can you afford to continue operating the number of buildings that you have over the population that's in them? Number one. Second, are there alternative uses or programs that you can bring into those buildings that can bring more students back to the district and offer more services to their students? What are the things that those people who might come to the buildings would have a direct impact on the lives of the children or the learning? So if we delve into that a little deeper, the question on the table is, do we have the proper ability to, or capability to deal with cultural differences, language differences, etc. And within those categories, we have to talk about dialects, etc. So we just had your SRO talking about safety and incidents and things like that. One of the things that concerns the general population is, how do these kids interact with one another? And what are the early warning signs that all of us can be aware of? And who are the people who can understand what's being said and relate that back to the child's home and also in the classroom? The other example, the other question is, are we putting people in the classrooms, whether they're aides or teachers, who make the child feel welcome, but also can understand what that child is saying? So that's where the bilingual issue becomes an issue. So if I'm from a country and I have never been in an English-speaking environment before, and I'm here 2 weeks, I'm in school, I feel lost, I'm not a part of anything because there's no one there that either looks like me or can relate to me or listen to me or whatever. So in working with, again, Dr. Leverett's cabinet, we are looking at where do we recruit differently? And how do we get those people to agree to come here? Which leads then to another question. Remember the excess building capacity? So you were talking about the Hawthorne property earlier, and it has been discussed in this board earlier. Could there be a discussion with the developer, with a partnership with the district, so you can convert maybe 1 or 2 of your buildings to housing, and what we call mid-level housing, where the eligibility to live in this housing would not exclude teachers. That's a question to put on the table, which, as part of this formulation of where we want to go, where you want to go, the recommendations will come from the cabinet, and when they come to the board, through Mr. Terry, Trustee Terry, and President Hanna, because they have asked to be directly involved in the discussions. But formulating those questions and potential outcomes is where a lot of the staff are trying to wrap their heads around the challenge, because it's a different kind of discussion and different kind of engagement than they've had in the past. The discussions around these kinds of issues have come down from the top. The strategy is entirely different at this point in time. It's being asked for those who are on the front line. It's like 360 program improvement. You're asking the people on the front line, so more people are involved, and they all have different points of view, which has to be taken into account. So, by the time we get through with this, it's going to be a deliberate process. It will look different than what you are accustomed to seeing, but hopefully there will be enough unity among the staff so when you have an opportunity to talk with them or to question them in a setting like this and say, where are we going and why? Because, as has been pointed out to you, you don't really have a choice. You look at your finances, you have to grow. You can't really slide more into the background and lose more kids and expect to be competitive. You cannot put the discussion off any longer because of what's been described as a federal fiscal cliff. And if you look at the federal fiscal cliffs, it's not just the loss of ESSER money. We're looking at the grants, because there's several changes in the whole grant structure that will have an impact. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. If I am a Title I teacher and 100% of my money comes out of Title I, if there's any change in the funding or rules or whatever, now I have to go back to federal funds at 50%, general funds at 50% or 25% or whatever. That's a hit on the general fund that you may not have anticipated. So working back and forth between finance and HR, we're looking at all the implications for any shift in funding outside of ESSER, for example. The second question was put on the table was, for example, in the last cabinet meeting, was the increase in the number of special needs students that are coming back into the district or are in need of IEPs, etc. And if I remember my numbers correctly, for every dollar that's spent on special needs, the district has to come up with about 40 cents of general fund money to support that. And you have your budget director here that can correct me if I give you incorrect information. So the balance is really a tipping point, which is what you have basically already embraced, that you want to look at this differently. And I'm glad and I'm appreciative of the fact that you're open to that. But more importantly, the urgency is what's on the table, because as you look at the timeline between now and, let's say, March of next year, you have very few meetings where these things can be discussed. There are very few cabinet meetings in terms of what these people have to do on an everyday basis, and then come back and think about, oh my God, is my job going to be here or changed or whatever? Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze, I think. Excuse me. And that's going to make some people anxious. So the goal is also not only to get them to think outside the box, but more importantly, to be assured that they're included in the decision making. And there are going to be some changes, and some people are going to say, ouch. Because we don't know today what it's going to be. So that's what I've been involved in. It's going to be, continue to be that way. It's moving fast, but then also from my lens, it's moving too slow. I would like to see much of this wrapped up by the end of this year so that we can start January 6th with a whole new outlook in terms of how to attack some of the major problems involving your financial existence. And then we can get into issues like personnel and other programming. So unless there are any questions, Madam President, that concludes my status report.
Okay. Trustees, are there any questions for Dr. Weatherspoon? Yes, Trustee Gross.
As you guys are going through this process, as far as the next update, we have timelines on where we'll be updated, what we're looking at, because, like you said, it's on a short track. Because we can't keep doing the same old thing. We can't. Things have to readjust, change, reapprove, whatever we need to do, because it's not working. So if we can continue to get an update on what we're doing, and I understand, because this is the first time hearing this, I like the ideas, what we're looking at, because our environment, our kids are changing more quicker than what we're implementing. I just took a look at the numbers that were sent today through the superintendent's report. 46.1% of our students are African American, Black. 47 and 43. 43 are Hispanic or Latino. That's 90% of our population that are Black and brown students. This district is changing because there are those who are leaving and more who are coming in. We know we may see a change. We don't know. We discussed that. We may see a change in some of our Latino numbers because of what's coming into Congress in January. But we have to be ahead of that because we're finding that in our schools now it's being more difficult to be able to teach those. It's difficult to teach those who don't understand what they're being taught. And we don't have the teachers in here to share that language. So we gotta move this thing. So if we can get some updates, even if it's just a document you can send out saying, this is where we are, what we're thinking, what we got. And I'm not asking for, an every month or every week report, but it's just something, because this interests me because of what the type of kids we have in our district now. Because this thing has changed since I've been in school quite a bit. And we only have 6.3% of our kids that are white.
So, Trustee, the strategy is that we'll work with Treasurer Terry and get him up to speed to the point where he can make that presentation to you, because he's asked to be
absolutely.
A part of all these meetings. When we get to a certain level of knowledge, then we're going to bring that to the board president and the treasurer and answer their questions and take the time to respond to their questions and our issues.
Got it. I like it.
Because sooner or later there's going to be a rub. Okay? And that rub needs to be fully known to everybody up front.
Exactly.
So that we don't say, this is the first I've heard of it, or I can't live with this.
Right.
Okay? But the numbers may dictate some other things that you hadn't taken into consideration, which is, this is my favorite project, and all of a sudden, it's not going to happen. Or, there's another way to get there. And that's what is also on the table. What are the other things you can do to get where you want to go? Right. And we all have favorite projects that we all have.
But yes, I agree totally. But remember, things are ever changing. So we have to move quicker than what we're doing now.
Well, I can thank Dr. Leverett for setting aside time in her cabinet meetings for these kinds of discussions.
Yeah.
We are overdue for a discussion with you, Trustee Terry.
Thank you.
But we don't have some numbers that I think are important. Because as we talked in our last phone conversation about the 6% fund equity and what that means.
That's it, Doc. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, I think, no, trustee
Oh, I'm
Kraft has
sorry.
a question too.
This is not directly directed to you, Doc, but it was just about what was just said. And one of the things, that was said is just the dynamics of the, how we done changed and went from, 47 and 43 or however.
47 and 43.
47 and 43. Now maybe we should look at what we teaching right now. As far as, our graduation rate. It's no secret our graduation rate is
It's better.
But it's not where we want to be.
But it's better.
It's not where we want to be. And now that we have a new set of Hispanic kids, and we have our black African American kids, we need to figure out what we're teaching these kids. If it's something that they can actually learn, and that's actually good, that relates to what they're living with, for them, for their environment.
Yep.
We shouldn't be teaching stuff that we learned back in the day when the whole dynamics of the school populations was different. So we need to look into a curriculum change, and I think that's the thing that we need to explore more than anything else right now. And that was one of the things that I was going to advocate for in my second term, in which I'm going to still advocate for it. I'm not leaving, going nowhere. But I think that's going to be the key to the success of our children here. We can't teach the same thing with different dynamics of kids. So
I don't want to preempt Dr. Leverette's plans, but she is in the process of identifying a resource to do just exactly what you're talking about. And that's part of our planning process of what do we need to do in light of what we have to serve. So if we go back to the center of why we're here, you've got children, and there's some of them are sitting out here on an island, and that cannot be.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what Ferguson did.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Weatherspoon.
Thank you.
So I
Did you
just
wanna
wanted to
say
say, as
something?
Dr. Weatherspoon takes his seat, is that this is a comprehensive view, as you said, Trustee Crabb. Where are we? What does the curriculum look like? Does it meet the demands of the students? But with that being said, when you have the child at the center, there is some other areas that we need to look at as well. So simultaneously, we need to take a look at curriculum and instruction, and we also need to take a look at human resources in terms of by opportunities for hiring internationally. What does that look like? And we need to have a plan. Like now, we're behind the 8 ball. Yes, we do have, PSYOP training for our teachers at Pontiac, at Alcott, at several schools throughout the district, I will say, and they participate in that professional training through Oakland schools. But as it relates to getting to the crux of that student's well-being and safety and the trauma that they experience, all of this is they're all connected. So we really can't have the conversation about curriculum and instruction and what those outcomes look like unless we have the conversation about human resources, our staffing, and what does that look like for them. So these are all opportunities for us to pull this together and really come together with a sense of urgency and direction for how we want to move forward. So thank you for lifting that.
Yes, Secretary Davis-Smith.
So, I remember, my godmother was speaking about, she's from down south, and they came to the people down south back in the day, and a lot of them lived, I thought it was in Pontiac, but it wasn't. She said it was in Detroit, where they had housing for teachers. So, like Dr. Weatherspoon was speaking about housing and stuff with the city, maybe like we get international people here and house them, with us, where it'll save save money all the way around, plus helping us and helping them as well. So that might be a thought as well.
Any other thoughts, questions? Yes, VP Bowman?
With this new change and shift in the demographics and everything, I just hope that we can continue, I don't want to say continue, but implement working with Michigan Works in some regard, possibly getting them to help pay for some staffing and training at the same time, utilizing another resource within the community. And as far as housing for families and teachers, just carving out ways to help more in our community, whether it's different buildings or little house pods around. So I'm glad that the conversation is happening. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to our next item on our agenda, board conference recap. So trustees, I know we did some traveling the last part of October, so I wanted to give you a chance. Some of you kind of gave a little blurb as to what you did when we were at our conference, Michigan Association School Board Conference, as well as our CUBE conference that we attended. So I wanted to use the space to allow you just to share anything that you wanted to bring back to the district from what you observed or learned when we were away. So
Can I
we'll
start?
Yep.
Get it done quick. No, I'm just
Yes.
kidding. Dr. Hannah, we're in class. You know, one of the things that I had the opportunity to do that I was unable to a lot of things I was unable to get to because of, you know, what happened to me as it pertains to physical. But one of the things that I did, I decided to communicate with others outside of who we usually communicate with, the various districts that were brought on. And then I had a long discussion with the Ypsilanti board and superintendent. And that allowed me the opportunity to communicate with them some of the positive things that we're doing here and some of the things that we're having difficulty with, and just to get ideas from the various groups that were there to feed on what they were telling me. And man, the opportunity to do so, plus that also allowed me to gain more relationships and friendships. So there's people that I can contact outside of here that are going to some of our similar issues as it pertains to hiring of teachers and their academic achievements, districts that look like ours. And I took advantage of that, and I met with some North Carolinas, the Carolinas, who hadn't been there before. And so I made it a purpose to do that. And it's extremely important, and I want to say this, it's extremely important that we continue to do things like this because it opens up a lot of information for us. Various programs can come from these conferences that we didn't have, such as the aviation, and now we even talked about security and things like that, where there are and their concerns. I was able to share some of the things that we do security-wise that they had no knowledge of, and so to bring the detectors and things like that. And so sharing that information to me and just communicating is extremely important at these conferences. It's not just a good time. We always, we talk about that because we're away from here. And sometimes it's relaxing. But business-wise, it's extremely important that we continue to do things like this because we're ever learning and things are ever changing. And now we were even looking at, because of what this young man has done, we looked at fellowshipping and going to other districts outside of this state to get their ideas because they're succeeding. When you have a district that looks like ours and their graduation rate is in the 95 to 99%, what are you doing differently than we are? And so I learned that, and that's ever learning for me. So I'm glad I'm back for another 6 years. Because it gives me the opportunity to continue to learn.
Yeah.
And that's important to me.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo.
You want to go down the road? Kraft, did you have anything? I know you shared before.
I shared before and everything. It's just my only regret was not talking to Erica Anderson at the Bellagio. So-
Erica Alexander.
Oh, Erica Alexander, yeah, the lady from Liberty City, Max. I saw her, I sat next to her. But no, in Vegas, I had it like Gross said, we bring out other ideas. We listen to other districts and we get other inputs on what they're doing, their successes, and that's what those conferences were about. And that's how I come back with all these ideas. I didn't learn all this stuff around here by going to the MASBs up in Lansing and then just the various little trips. I don't just go out here and party. I go to those sessions and those classes and I learn how to be a better board person. And I got a lot out of it and I have a lot of ideas and I'm not done yet.
Okay.
I will be back.
Good.
So,
We appreciate that.
yep.
Secretary Davis Smith?
Most of the classes that I attended, they spoke about equitable education, a program that has like a system that every student has the opportunity to reach their full academic and social potential, regardless of their, personal or social circumstances. And a lot of the people in those, a lot of the other board members, they was in some of the superintendents that attended said that is what they're seeking as well. But a lot of the other things that was the same was, and they spoke about it in these classes, were that we need parent participation in order to get to that, to have the equitable education. And I just believe that parent participation really does matter because even working now in education and I can tell which students is being helped at home and which students aren't. So, and that's I just work in kindergarten, so, and I can tell the difference between my students, which ones are actually getting, help at home. And I know, just by me being a parent, dealing with my children, that regardless to what school they attended, because I was, involved in their education as well as their extracurricular activities after school, that it made a difference. Even speaking with, their friends and things like that, and they would say, I wish my parents was there, and that's why I was involved with the kids, with their extracurricular activities and just being another person there. Because you don't have to be related for a student to feel like they're cared about or loved, as long as we show up for them. So that was really what I had gathered back, which I was thinking anyway. But I was glad that I was able to be in those classes and learn. And I brought some stuff back. I got to give it to you guys so that maybe we can implement those things here at the school district.
Thank you. All right, Treasurer Terry, you was quite busy. Yeah.
I just go down the list, so I don't take it.
Okay.
I'll just do that. As my colleagues mentioned, it's always a good time to go out there and then network and meeting a lot of different people from a lot of different districts. It's very important out there to get out there and, learn some new ideas and bring back some new ideas as well to the district, and also share some of the things that we've learned and, some of our accomplishments, and provide that details as well. So a lot of collaboration with all of that. In addition to that, I'm just going to go down a list involving some of the classes that I was able to participate in, learn information in regards to the audits. Basically, our internal audits or our audits that we do annually don't necessarily include everything. Specifically, it doesn't specifically point out if there's no fraud out there at all. But obviously, you had to do more deep dive inside of those. But a few of the important things to focus on were the auditor's opinion, the MD&A, which is the management discussion and analysis, and then also the schedule of findings. So, and then obviously from there, questions, obviously ask your questions, I guess you want to say. Outside of that, better understanding on key variables involving like the governance responsibilities and the impact it can have on the budget. Having a better understanding on managing a construction project. A lot of good information on that one as well. I know we're kind of in the middle of those, and I know I joined on the board. We was already in, I guess, motion with a lot of those construction projects, but some good pointers on the start, in between, and also concluding those. Many factors that can shape the public opinion. Obviously, I know we're involved with a lot of that as well. Obviously, media. We do the polling and stuff to get feedback from our community and things like that. And then also branding, which I think we got, I don't want to say we nailed that. We nailed that. I was able to rock our jackets and had all of the vest out there and, you know, had all my pins on. So the Phoenix was definitely representing. And yeah, they knew we was coming down.
They
the
told
branding,
us, y'all came in last year
the
with all this
branding,
stuff on.
I would say we nailed the branding part.
Everybody noticed that.
Yeah, everybody knew that. Everybody knew that.
Yes, Lanny said,
another,
we saw y'all jackets.
yeah, we had. Another important factor regarding kind of like shaping the public's opinion was trust. And I think to me that kind of stood out the most. Just building that trust up, you know, with your community and everything, and being able to have that bonding. And then from there, you know, taking that trust, I guess you want to say protecting it, doing your best to keep that trust the way it is, so you don't lose that trust, because as they stated, once you lose that trust, it's hard to get it back. It's hard to get it back. So just an important factor there. The importance of staying involved with the legislator and obviously their processes. The biggest thing is basically the impact that it can have on the school aid budget. Obviously, that's kind of a factor now that we're kind of looking at as well. And then also another famous term that came out and was thrown around a lot, even over at the CUBE session. I think you mentioned this one too, but the lame duck. So that was another important factor there. Just be aware of the lame duck and a lot of things that can happen and take place between that time, and yeah, be ready for surprises. The impacts the board has on student achievements, trying to stay more focused, obviously the leadership, and the biggest thing I think we've been kind of focusing on is accountability. And then from there, obviously with the CUBE conference we had, growing the CUBE districts, that was a big factor there. We picked up more numbers with the CUBE conference, so that was great. The turnout there was awesome. We packed the house. So that was an accomplishment there. Some points that were taken away: the importance of strong leadership, continued learning to impact changes in the educational system. Making your voices also be heard at all levels. So not just necessarily your local levels, but, you know, branching out and getting out there on the state level and also national. Another little session I was able to attend was outside the box. And I think one of the ideas we kind of already discussed was pretty much the things to do with some of your vacant buildings. And I know one of the biggest things that caught my peak attention was, you know, maybe doing some development plans with the housing and being able to provide that opportunity out there. But just things to look into. But yeah, just I guess thinking outside the box. Even with considering some of the designs of our buildings and things like that. I think they talked a lot about the square footages and, you know, a whole bunch of empty space. And what are we doing with that empty space? Are we really utilizing it? You know, can it be turned into something else? Things like that to consider. And then last, the strength of the board members through using service at schools, which, can also impact your personal lives as well. So that was a good discussion and topic on there. And not last but not least, obviously, you know, Gil Garrett's award that he received. There was a shock to all of us, and congratulations again.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations again. But those impacts of service, and that was the biggest thing. Gil stood out when it came to service. doing everything to the community, giving back, just being active out there, just service in general, and not necessarily always looking for something back. So, take my hat off to you, sir. Keep up the good work as well.
Yes, sir.
And very good conference. Very good conference.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All
Sorry.
right.
I tried to warn you.
Yeah, that's okay. Mine is kind of lengthy too, but, yep, I wanted to say trustee Garrett, because you facilitated that
Madam
one.
President, I brought something back from the conference. I mean,
I know,
designed it, but
I
brought
know.
something.
That's what I was about to say.
Oh, okay.
You not only facilitated in Lansing, because you had a workshop there, and then you ran the show at Cube, so of course, tell us what you got.
So, I think, I mean, right, it's kind of, I'm still getting stuff back from this particular conference, but this one was a little bit more intentional when we started designing it a year ago. And it was to get other districts involved who may have or feel like they are not a Q district or urban district, and really start to have a conversation about what is a district. Like what your identity as a district, what identifies you when you say suburban, rural, urban, you have all these different titles, right? Or and so to sit back, to honestly say I had to take these last couple of weeks to sit back to really process how I started here, and everything has been trained from here. And so when you're doing the work, you don't necessarily think about it in the sense of like, oh, it was, I remember 1997 clearly walking in, and I think the first school we was at was Alcott. Like, I remember. And how fast it goes, but then also understanding the patience gathered from it. And so being in Lansing at the ACLU, of course, you know, I always like going to that leadership conference, and they ran back to back. It's just the way that the scheduling happened, but it was intentional on the fact of making sure that people clearly understood that you have a responsibility, no matter what district or your district size. And so being a presenter the first time in Lansing was different, right? Because traditionally they don't have board of directors presenting, so that was different. But none of what I've done or what I was able to bring back, again, started here, and it started getting on the board, thinking we just gonna be, you know, at the school chilling. I'm gonna be doing the same thing, but it's a business side of this. And so there's been some appointments that's been made, again, at the state level and national level for me after this conference that will help me continue my service and education. I'm grateful for that. But I can honestly say there's nothing that has happened in this district that you haven't seen in education. Like there's a note, there's a plethora of information that you've already experienced, whether you've been on the outside before you got on the board or wherever it's at. Like there's nothing that you will go through, even with the talk with Dr. Weatherspoon has stated, when you start talking about building, we closed schools before. So to be able to take Pontiac, take Detroit, go to other states, and be able to answer full questions, give them full solutions, give them plans, give them I still got my files, right? So I still use the older stuff to let people, because people want receipts nowadays. You know, before then, there wasn't no social media, so you had to keep the stuff. But to, you know, one thing that is just, and to when I first came here, I heard that people were not necessarily taking our stuff, we're borrowing stuff from Pontiac and using it, and they would never give us credit for it. And they would, you know, build whole cities and municipalities and never say that they got it from Pontiac. Well, when it comes down to this educational space, that we can transform what we believe urban education is now beginning to look like and what it will look like here in the Midwest, in this central region, excuse me. So I took a lot from that. We're going to plan, you know, we're planning an educational conference here for next year, specifically for urban districts in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, the central region, and we'll host it here. We had this conversation before a couple of years ago, but we're ready. You know, I went to this and being intentional, sponsorships, and you know, and so we finally achieved the necessary funding to do so. So it's just it's heavy. It's still heavy. You know, the thought process of somebody telling you your life, because I went to asking questions of like, I'm too young to get a presidential award from the White House about lifetime achievement. But when somebody tell you your resume, it's weird for me because I don't like surprises and don't think people know or don't people see, but people are watching and they are tallying up what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so if there's anything I could say to you as you're continuing the journey, is that take the crookeds with the straights and know that you're here for a reason. And I think Dr. Weatherspoon mentioned it when he said, you know, sometimes people get uncomfortable when you start talking about closing buildings and underutilization and things of that nature, but that's the business side of it. And I think, you know, just by Trustee Terry just explaining everything that he had to go through as a treasurer, just to say, hey, this is things that I heard them, but now these are things that I need to know specifically and how I need to be intentional about what the next steps are as we move the board in a direction, right? Like, to see all of that, to me, is it's a blessing, and it was beautiful. And that's what I took from not just this Michigan conference, and that's what I took from this one specifically, because it was Vegas where I started looking at those folks walking around with all those degrees and, you know, talking to board members, and you will continue to lead when you go out of town, because we want to make sure we keep that reputation what it is. We're not Detroit, we're not Flint, we're not Lansing, we're not any of those places that have their own identity, but we are the ones that we want to be known that we are the change agent, and we can do it and do it with excellence. And as we're, you know, continuing to move forward through this whole process. On the last point I brought back is having a meeting with a group of legislators who flew in on the second day, getting confused, talking about what if, and we have a meeting tomorrow, if the election went the way that it went, what's our next steps? And so here comes January, you know, when we start talking about, you know, the legislative updates. You know, we go to DC, we on the Hill, X, Y, and Z, and we have a plan. You know, it's not something, you know, we didn't, you know, you have the hard conversations at that point, and they become very easy when you can have solutions and understand what it takes, and it takes people to change certain things, and everybody don't agree with, even in the, and I'll leave it with this, even how the election turned out. everyone still is not in agreement on what public education should look like. So we still have an opportunity to see what that looks like. And if you, Project 25, if you haven't read that piece of the Department of Education, it is not as doom and gloom as people make it out to be. But you have to understand some of the language in there to make sure that when they start talking about it here, so our state reps, you mentioned being in contact with your legislation, and that they know what they're voting on, and they know how. So if there is room for you now to begin to talk about having lobbyists, we've made that move before when we came to this point, and as a district, we've done it before. My suggestion, as a board, you start looking at that for the state of Michigan, because there's conversations in those lame duck sessions. I think you should have your MASB update, legislative update that should have came through.
Okay.
Please read that. Please read that one. It's very important.
Yeah.
Of some of the things that they're discussing in lame duck and as they're navigating into January. And so it was a lot to take from. I'm still processing it, but I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do it for 3 years. And maybe now I can get back to, well, I know I'm going to get back to doing what I love to do, and that's the work side of it. So appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, VP Bowman, what you got?
Okay, well, a few things. As far as the conference, I brought back, we pretty much touched on it a little bit as far as restorative practices and possible ways to eliminate suspending students and using some of the space in the buildings to create an in-school service of sorts. So everyone has a little handout that I brought. These are just examples of what another district was doing. We don't need to recreate the wheel because they did it. So, you know, if it's anything that we can pull from to bring here, because the suspension and readmittance committees, that's a real thing. So being able to continue to support our youth, but not necessarily have them in the classroom if they can't behave properly. Another thing that I was able to get some good information on is in regards to community gathering spaces. The district, we have put a lot of money into our buildings and things like this, and utilizing the community room over at WHRC for some community events to garner parent participation, because we know that that is something that is very much needed. Want to touch on, we had the opportunity to vote in regards to some policies that will be around this here in Michigan, and one of the things were suicide awareness. We need to really think about what that looks like. One of my children, my boys, they went to West Bloomfield, and on the back of his ID card, one of my children, I didn't really love how it looked because the word suicide was huge. However, we decide to get that out, that message out to our student, to make them more aware of not how we choose to put that message out, because it is coming, and we don't want to burden down our teachers with pushing out the message. We all have to do our part with the awareness piece when it comes down to that. And that's pretty much, wait, I have another piece of paper. I can't find it. That's pretty much it, you know, working together, collaborating with community, and really getting the buy-in from families, because that's what is needed to help continue to push our district forward. So going to the conferences, speaking to other communities, get it in ideas to bring back here so that we can continue to thrive in this community here in Pontiac. So, thank you. It's great.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna try to be as quick as possible so that I don't bore everybody. For me, the conference in Lansing, the MASB conference, that was more for edifying myself as a board member, as a leader in our district. So the classes that I chose were things that I felt that could help me to be better and more effective. So one of the first courses I took was effective board meetings, and this is where we discuss strategies and techniques that will lead to effective and more productive meetings, ways for us to work with the superintendent, maintaining order during public comments, as well as some districts have public comments at the beginning and the end of their meetings. I know we usually have it typically at the end, but we discuss how to facilitate difficult discussions, planning and preparing for board meetings, and working with the media to convey our narrative. And I think that's something we talk about we need to do more of, telling our story. Another class I took in Lansing was Assertiveness, Leadership, and Influence for Women. We discussed the unique problems that women face in the workplace, how our tone matters, how we are projecting confidence, and the importance of listening. Emotional intelligence is huge for us. It helps us to build and sustain relationships, boost resiliency against stress, and just basically how we handle challenging situations and how we show up. And again, this was probably the most important class I wanted to take to hear how others are doing in this space. And the other one I took in Lansing was Board President and Superintendent Synergy, how the superintendent and board presidents work together and what that looks like. And so it was facilitated by a first-time superintendent and a new board president. So I really thought that was relevant to my situation and working with Dr. Leverett. At the CUBE conference, I really enjoy CUBE because so many times when we're talking about the challenges within Pontiac, we're often comparing it to West Bloomfield or Clarkston or just some of our other suburban schools. And for me, the CUBE conference allowed us to look at apples to apples. It helps me to see what other urban school districts are faced with and how they are handling the situations that much mirror those that we are handling right here in Pontiac. So I always really enjoy this conference, as well as the networking, like Trustee Garrett and Kraft has said, just being able to connect with others in these districts that are doing the same work, dealing with the same students, and just sharing ideas and best practices. So there, I took a session. We attended the general session, which guest speaker, Trustee Garrett was. He was a guest speaker at one of our luncheons. And then he also received the Presidential Award by Mr. Michael Smith, which was from AmeriCorps. So again, we congratulate Trustee Garrett. I attended the Thriving Under Pressure, Managing Trauma and Triggers as a board member, as a school board director. This one was facilitated by Dr. Courtney Gray. She's from our Ferguson Florissant School District.
Yes.
We like them. I think we established a relationship with them a couple years ago. I did talk with their superintendent there, Mr. Davis or Dr. Davis there, and so we're trying to coordinate our schedule so we can schedule some time so that he can talk with Dr. Leverett and we can exchange ideas. So her class was very interesting. We discussed what do board members fear most, and just being mindful of our responses when we're in fight mode, flight mode, freeze mode, and fawn mode, and just trying to become a more value-driven, resilient leader. And then the other class that I took was Empowering Schools as Community Hubs. This kind of goes with our whole building utilization conversation. This was facilitated by Dr. Dennis McKessie, and he addressed how to address out-of-school issues in school. And so when we talk about what the community concerns are, whether it's food insecurities, financial literacy, technology, mental and physical health, how are we as a district addressing those issues that are inside of our community? What does that look like, and how do we address those inside of our schools? So he is the CEO of an organization called the Off School Grounds Coalition, and he had some great examples of things that they are doing in their school districts that are helping to deal with the issues that kids are facing outside of school. So again, great conference, great job to Trustee Garrett and all of his team that put Cube on. And again, I think we use these spaces and time away for us to connect with other districts, other trustees, to just compare notes and talk about and share best practices. So that's all I got. I tried to talk real fast. No, I'm good. So that was it. So we'll continue down our agenda. And now we're at open floor. Are there any comments or anything from our trustees for our open floor conversation? All right.
I do have my CBA packets if any guys want to look at some of that information.
Thank you.
But the classes were wonderful, so I do highly recommend them.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Trustee Kraft?
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to vote. Last week, last Tuesday, the election, unfortunately, it didn't go my way, but I'm going to continue to strive for my Pontiac children. I will not be idle. I will be in the community like I've always been in the community, and it might be down the road where I might want to rejoin the board if possible, but I'd like to congratulate the winners that I could say the people that actually were elected on. And if any support that they need, I'll be right here for them. And I'll just take this on the chin like a real G. So thanks everybody for the opportunity for allowing me to come here and be on another platform. I never envisioned myself on being at this dais. In all the probability of even growing up or whatever, but I've actually learned a lot in these less than 2 years that I've been here, and thanks to my colleagues right here, I'd like to thank them because I learned a wealth of policy and different ways of dealing with things, and this was just an awesome experience, and for everybody from the administration on down to the cafeteria workers, I'm here for you and I love you.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Just to add a little bit to that, I was one of the three that actually came in position to come back to the board. So I appreciate those who supported me and voted me back into office. And I'm completing my 12th year, and I'm still the senior board member on this diocese. And boy, with these 6 more years, that means 18 years.
You still are compared to some of the...
I know, some of Cube at 30. But I just want to thank those who, went out to the election and believed in me and decided to bring me back to this position. But I do want to say this. I will definitely miss these 2 young men who are part of this diocese, who will be moving on to other ventures, but still part of this. But I do want to say this. The Gross and the Kraft and the Davis family made history by having 3 family members, elected officials, in these positions. So I want to say to those out in the community that actually trusted us and believed in us to do that, to put us here, thank you. Thank you. And I take that to my heart because that means a lot. This young man is more than just a first cousin to me. He grew up with us as brothers. Actually stayed in the house together, and my parents treated him as if he was just the 5th gross son. And so him being here meant a lot to me, and I know, and we talk about this all the time, that God rest their souls, but our parents will be so proud of what we're doing here in the community that I thought that I would move away. And my mom came to me and she says, "Boy, why are you leaving? Come back here and give back to those who gave to you." And that meant a lot to me. And I thank God I'm still here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Garrett?
Just and I want to tell you this, Craft, and I told you this before. I come on the board, I get off the board. Get on the board, get off the board. Now that you have the knowledge that you have, now you can begin to educate those who think they know what this is. And so in a community, if I can say it in front of 1,000 people, you know I'm gonna say it in front of 300 people. Some people don't want to know because they want to keep things the same. And you're stronger now than you ever been before as a community member, because now you have an understanding and you get to say things and correct things that these are still your teammates that they can't in certain positions. And so you often hear me saying somebody put it in a whatever, but you don't go anywhere. You just get stronger. And the community in this district needs you more now than ever, because the change, the storm that's coming, that's at our doorstep, needs to be handled with everybody involved. And and people trust you. My prayer is that the individuals who are coming to the board don't come in a disruptive manner, or don't come with the thought of what they think they know from the place that they used to sit. And that this board wraps around its leadership, stay consistent, so you and I can stay consistent in the community. My seat changed. I'll be right there. I'll be right there. Don't even worry about it. I'll be right there. Because it's going to get louder in here if you never experienced this. It's going to get louder in here, and the conversations in the galley gets a little rough. Because everybody gets to jousting for what they think that they want. And now we get to have a conversation with people who never sat where any of you sat. And when I say that, not just sitting in your seats, like what you've done as a board, no trustees prior to you has ever done. So you are the professionals, as we stated. You are the educational professionals in Pontiac. Not just by name, not just by title, but by the work that you've put in to get here and to be here. So that don't change. And so you should be the educational professionals that when it's time to go to Lansing in these educational committees and to have conversations, I don't have to sit there. They can pull up any one of y'all that's sitting here now. I'm not talking about the people who coming. I'm talking about the ones that's sitting here now and that can carry the word in the name of what you've done in Pontiac. And people listen to you with respect because you have the knowledge and the institutional knowledge of what we are doing and what we've done. We'll get another one of those awards that's coming at another level, a Board Achievement Award. And so don't take that lightly. And if it's one, I took it lightly. I was just thinking like, we just doing, no, don't take it lightly. And so our charge is to be pillars. And our charge is to make it easier for them, the ones that's sitting right here. Our charge is to make sure that administration and folks are getting the information out. We know we talk about get out in the community and you should be getting the information out. That should be our charge. And that is something that we'll continue to do. I think, like you say, because you know. And so I appreciate you coming here with an open mind. Coming here willing to learn and using your assets. We have when you call it aerospace, aviation program, because you went and took a chance. You worked your butt off to be able to go to a conference out of state to go meet somebody who's right down the street that was trying to get into the district, couldn't get in the district before, but then came under this administration, came under you, came under the, like that don't go away. That's trust. And people see that. So I don't want you to look at it as because you're not sitting here. It's cool. But out there is even cooler. Especially when you've been sitting here before. So trust me. It's a cool ride. And you have board members who are very capable of speaking to our goals, our core values, and leading. Do not get distracted by anyone who thinks they're going to come here and be disruptive. And do not put yourself in position where we're going back. Dr. Weatherspoon said it very clear. Now, mind you, I was a very black-haired young man when I met Dr. Weatherspoon, and this is 05, 06. You got a playbook. Do not get distracted. And do not get comfortable in thinking that people have the same level of love and compassion and dedication for this work than you do. I'm telling you, from my experience, you ain't gonna find another 7 like this. Ever. Ever. That grew up fast, because we had to, and that put out the products and work that we put out. We'll change the numbers. We're gonna raise the numbers, but I'm telling you, like, and you're gonna see it if you stick together. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Open floor. Open floor. Board comments.
Is the open floor to board comments?
It's on here twice. It could be. Good.
I'll use this open floor as my board comment.
Okay.
This was a great meeting. Trustee Kraft, thank you so much for, I know you're not walking out of here tomorrow or anything like that. We still have a little bit more time together, but thank you. You always my partner at these conferences. I appreciate you, Troy, and thank you for the good ideas and the work that you put in to serve. I can't say that I've been on the board not quite 18 years or anything like that, but I'm very much proud to serve with all of you. Gil, thank you for what you do and what you have done and what you will continue to do in representing this community and being out there and being the leader that you are. Thank you for wearing Pontiac, not just on your lapel, but in your heart. Thank you for that. It doesn't go unnoticed on how we want to push forward and strive for our community. And again, you're not leaving, you're just moving seats, as you'd like to say. Trustee Gross, thank you and congratulations for being in the number yet again. Just bigger and better things to come, but I'm excited about this board and the conversations that we had this evening so that we surely can solidify something to stake our claim in the future of the city of Pontiac. So,
One footnote. It's gonna be real quick.
Okay.
Had I got on and my cousin didn't get on, I was gonna find a way to put him on, and I was gonna step aside. Because the thing is that when you vote, you're supposed to be educated voters. You're supposed to know exactly who's supposed to be in the seats. And I wouldn't feel like the right person if I didn't have that desire, that knowledge, and just the know-how to lead this board. Kevin has a wealth of experience that can help the rest of the board. I wouldn't have had that. I wouldn't have never brought that dynamic here had it just been me and the 2 new board members. So I'm looking out for the wealth and the safety of our children. And they come first. They come first. And that's it.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Appreciate you, Kraft. I'm not gonna give no, speech and say all of mine yet, cause I might get, emotional, cause I don't like saying
They not leaving
goodbyes.
yet.
Right, so I'm not even going there
They ain't
tonight.
leaving yet.
So I'm just going to save mine. I'm just going to say, but I will say congratulations to the, two, young ladies that were elected. We look forward to serving with you, but there's a lot of great things that have taken place with our trustees that are here that I really appreciate. So, that's all that I have for, yes,
This is published.
yes,
The 3 new members that were elected. So there's a letter I'll be sending out.
Okay.
Within so many days of them being notified by the Oakland County Elections Office.
okay,
Been elected. There's documentation to sign, et cetera. So I'll be sending out a letter to them explaining the entire process.
okay,
This week.
okay.
Yeah, we'll look.
Attorney Seeger said he'll be sending out letters to those, individuals that were elected, so and re-elected, so you should be receiving something in the mail, soon. But with that being said, I would like to move forward and get a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Support.
It's been moved by VP Bowman and supported by Trustee Gross to adjourn our meeting. Any questions? Roll call.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Garrett? Trustee Gross?
Yes.
President Hannah?
Yes.
Treasurer Terry?
Yes.
VP Bowman?
Yes.
Trustee Kraft?
Yes?
That passes 7-0.